Insurance. Our man Bart Scott in for Key. Hopefully we'll have Key back tomorrow. It's like 2 days here for Bart. I thought they eliminated those. You got this radio show and your own radio show in New York coming up later today.
Hey, the more you can do. That's all you got to say.
Bart chill, Bart cool.
I got no
Bart
life,
kicking
man.
it.
I got no life, bro. It's all good, man.
So that means be ready for tomorrow, too, Jessica. You put it out. You got no life, so you got no excuse to tell us you can't be here tomorrow.
Hey, Key, put that ace bandage on there, man. Put the foot up, man. It's all good. I got you, bro.
Key gonna come back in the studio like Paul Pierce in the wheelchair. Just laid out with T.O. glasses on.
Footprints.
And speaking of, the footprints to the Steelers right now lead to a path of COVID. What else is new? Ben Roethlisberger among 4 Pittsburgh Steelers placed on the team's COVID Reserve 19 list yesterday. And we should mention here the couple of the other guys. I always like to mention who some of these guys are because anytime you're involved in something like this, you're not just one of 53 or 55. You're an actual human being. So offensive lineman Gerald Hawkins, running back Jalen Samuels, and linebacker Vince Williams, along with big men coming in close contact with Vance McDonald, the team's tight end. So they are all in the protocol program at the moment. We should mention that they could be back in the Steelers facility Saturday if they test negative and they don't develop symptoms, which means essentially all of them could play against the Cincinnati Bengals without practicing, right? They'd be back on the field Saturday for the walkthrough. But when your quarterback's been in the league for 17 years, he could probably miss a divisional game against an opponent like Cincinnati he's played a million times. It's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Straight to Mike Tomlin with the very latest on those 4 I just mentioned.
It is our desire to participate wholly in the procedure. Those guys will be working remotely throughout the week and testing daily. As long as their tests come back negative, we believe that all 4 guys have an opportunity to be made available to us on Saturday. Some of the guys have more experience than others, and so we'll lean on that experience. Guys like Ben and Vince Williams, man, have an opportunity to suit up and play for us this weekend, and they'll simply work remotely and sharpen their sword in that way.
So what do you think about that, fella? Sharpen their sword. Big coaching cliche. Obviously here, if this game, for whatever reason, were to not be played, and remember, games have been moved around the NFL schedule. They've been postponed. They've been moved a day here, a day there, but no game has actually been canceled at this point. So that's important to keep in mind. But it could happen at any point, which is why the NFL is thinking about expanding the playoff field. So, Jay, to your point, the Steelers are on track they're trying to go 16-0. But if this game doesn't happen and they go 15-0 and another team goes 15-1, and suddenly we're not playing the same amount of games, what do you think about that? And what do you think about a team that could be on the doorstep of history at 16-0, but might not get the chance to get there?
Well, if hypothetically, if that scenario were to occur and they become 15-0, people can't remember what they did yesterday. You think people are going to remember the fact that Pittsburgh didn't play the Cincinnati Bengals, a team that is last in their division? They're 2-5. I love seeing the Bengals play. I love Joe Burrow. I think what they have is something special there for the future. But if they were to miss one game, or even 2 games, considering their next opponents are the Bengals and then the Jaguars. Now, we're talking about the Ravens. Now, that game, the week 12, the Ravens, if it was that game, a game that it was a fight for them to get through in the first place, their first matchup, then I think that will become a big issue. We will be talking about it. But with the Bengals, come on, man. If they were to miss that game, we wouldn't be talking about it if they were still 15-0.
Real quick, Bart, to Jay's point, the one thing about the Ravens, you mentioned that as a hypothetical because they're just a higher brow opponent than the Cincinnati Bengals. But remember, that game is scheduled to be played on Thanksgiving, and the league is going to make sure they have a prime time Thanksgiving game. A little over a decade now, they've been playing a 3rd game on Thanksgiving in prime time in front of the country.
That's thanks to my Detroit Lions.
Yes.
The games always stink.
Right, Detroit and Dallas.
Let's get somebody something after a night game. And
but to your point, Bart, real quick, I just wanted to mention that game is scheduled to be the night game, right? So somebody would have to be moved to a short week. If that game is on a Thursday, and for whatever reason, to Jay's point, that one can't be played, they would have to slide a game in there, and that would be unfair to a team to make them play on 4 days rest when they're not expecting to play on 4 days rest.
I think if that was to happen, you would just cancel the game. You would have 2 primetime games. You would owe the network a game. But listen to Mike Tomlin. It tells you why leadership matters, right? Because no matter what he says, I just have conviction that it's going to be okay, that there's no situation that's too big or too small for him. I feel like he's a guy that's really about the details, And listen, Big Ben has been hurt often, and most great players don't practice during the week, especially when you get later into November, December anyway. They kind of let the backup handle it. Nobody wants to see Mason Rudolph play, but I think that the Bengals, every time I think about it, I remember him like when they took the face mask off, man, like take my helmet off, man. Don't take my face mask off. He looking like Evel Knievel little cousin and stuff, man. Like that's a meme that'll never die. But, they're playing the Bengals, and, when you look at them, nobody cares. I don't care. Like in Titletown, it's about championships. So whether you go 15-0, 16-0, to me, this is a heavily flawed team as well. That's what makes this season so great. Every team that you say, whether it's 16-0, whether it's Kansas City, they all have warts. And it's all about who's going to be able to play. And the thing the curveball that you can't account for is COVID. Because what happens if somebody gets COVID during the playoffs? And you lose a player that can't play, what happens to the protocol? We saw Justin Turner. What happens to the protocol if somebody tests? Will it be one of these mystery Nick Saban test outs? Because, you want to you talk about a competitive advantage. Are we going to be able to move some of these? The reason why the NFL decided to start their season on time is so that they can have the flexibility to add weeks into the season, because the NFL is a sport that it doesn't matter about the weather. If they got to go into March, they can go into March. So that's the beauty about what's going on. I think they can make up any game if they really want to.
If they were to miss this game, if it were to be canceled, think about how that would be such a benefit to the Pittsburgh Steelers that actually got their bye week taken away due to that game with the Titans.
Indeed.
Right. So this might be the rest. If it did happen, this might be the rest that Big Ben, a guy who is injury prone, might need in order to help them get through to a longer season.
Fair enough. Straight Talk Wireless, no contract, no compromise. Our NFL insider, Jeremy Fowler, with much more inside the Steelers organization, how they're handling the week. He knows the organization well. Plus, the Cowboys and what they might do with their high draft pick. He's on the way on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line in 15 minutes. On the way, simply put, one of the greatest players in NFL history says the Eagles got it all wrong when they made their quarterback choice. That's after Jay has this.
Perfect timing, because it's time for some straight talk. Look, we all drop our phones. It happens. You fumble it, crack it, splash it. Well, Straight Talk Wireless now offers this Platinum Unlimited plan that includes phone protection. Just $65 a month for unlimited talk, text, and data.